One part of war-torn Sudan where aid has been blocked by the warring sides. Warnings it'll spread throughout the country. As the conflict takes a devastating toll on civilians, what can be done to help them? And is peace possible? This is Inside Story. Hello there and welcome to the programme. I'm Laura Kyle. There's a humanitarian crisis in Sudan, one that could have been prevented. Famine has been declared in Zamzam. That's a camp sheltering hundreds of thousands of displaced people in the North Darfur region. The crisis is the culmination of 15 months of war that's claimed tens of thousands of lives and displaced more than 11 million people. Aid agencies warn nearly 26 million Sudanese now face acute hunger. That's a sharp increase since the conflict began in April last year. Questions are being raised about how this situation was allowed to deteriorate. So could more have been done to prevent this famine? And what hope is there for the millions still at risk? We'll be discussing this with our guests shortly. But first, this report from Axel Zemovich.
In the North Darfur, famine has been officially declared in the Zamzam camp, home to 500,000 displaced people. For weeks, fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces has prevented aid from reaching them.
We're suffering from lack of food, water and everything else, but we're staying here, thank God, until now. We're eating simple food, thank God. We need water, food, healthcare, and for God to lift this curse from Sudan, nothing more than that.
The famine is spreading and people in 14 states are at risk, according to the UN's World Food Programme. And nearly half the country's population, that's 25 million people, urgently need humanitarian assistance.
All of the infrastructure is destroyed, so we're not able to use any other form of transport except air, and air is inefficient. It gets us to populations that are besieged, but not necessarily with the volume of assistance that we require right now.
The crisis is widely blamed on events going back to 2019. That's when a nationwide protest toppled longtime President Omar al-Bashir. A transitional government was formed to guide Sudan to democratic elections, but tensions soon emerged between the military and civilian leadership. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the armed forces, and Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemeti, leader of the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, were once allies in the transitional government. But disagreements over military reform led to open conflict in April 2023. Fighting erupted in the capital Khartoum and quickly spread. More than a year later, the country appears divided, with the RSF controlling much of the west, the army holding the east. Sexual violence has been used as a weapon of war, with Human Rights Watch saying fighters on both sides have frequently committed rapes, often in front of victims' families. Last week, after surviving an assassination attempt involving a drone strike, Sudan's military leader General al-Burhan said the armed forces would not negotiate with the RSF. But in a surprising turn of events, he then accepted an invitation to attend US-sponsored peace talks in Geneva. It's the first significant effort in months to bring the army and the RSF to the negotiating table.
If there are negotiations, it is assumed that it recognizes the Sudanese state. This state must be recognized, and based on that, we can negotiate.
As the generals fight for power, civilians are paying the price. Millions have been repeatedly displaced. And with famine taking hold, time is running out for the most vulnerable people in Sudan. Axel Zemovich, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Let's bring in our guests now. And in New York, Sudanese political analyst and broadcaster Khulud Khair. In Cairo, Amgad Farid El Tayyib.